And one small request is keep communicating. Okay, so in my class usually I speak 40% and the students speak 60%. So you keep actively interacting. And one small thing, like did you decide to take anthropology optional or confused in the optionals? Confused about optionals. Okay. So in today's class, let us see what is anthropology. I cannot clear your confusion completely because it is not good on my side to advise you to take this particular optional, because optional is the most important decision a UPSC aspirant can take. And before I proceed, let me introduce, like I am Hima Bindu. I've been in the UPSC teaching since more than some around 12 years, and I'm into teaching since more than some around 17 years. Okay, so coming to the point again, I forgot to introduce myself. Yes, so I should not tell you to which optional to take. Okay, so what I will do is I'll inform you about anthropology so that you can take an informed decision. First of all, what is anthropology? Okay, it is a subject about human beings. Okay, so subject about human beings means what all comes into that? Everything. I say usually a doctor is also an anthropologist if he is not a veterinary doctor. Okay, so it means like if you do anything like pediatrician, like what you are treating, like say the human kids only, okay, or economist. Okay, so like some dogs or pigs do not have economy, they don't deal with cryptocurrency or currency. It is after all human beings we deal with economic aspects. Political science, polity. Okay, so like we have politics, the dogs and cats, they do not have any politics. We have the political processes, acts, amendments and all these things, articles, constitution and all these things. Religion, okay, humans have religion. So any social concept you take, okay, like whatever you study usually. So like in geography you study human geography, right? So in every subject it is one way or the other way it is related to human beings. And anthropology is a study about human beings. So humans have a society, like including this language, culture, religion, family, marriage, caste system, with all these things. We have a society and only human beings have society. Other animals do not have. So in anthropology we study about the human society, and also we have a little bit of biology. Okay, so that is because we have a biological body also, we are not some plastic or iron. Okay, so like we have a little bit of biology, and if the proportion comes, it is like 24% biology. It is roughly some around 24% biology and some around 76% sociology. So it means anthropology is 75% like sociology. That was the reason why before 2013, when there were two optionals in the exam pattern, sociology and anthropology combination was not permitted. So you can take either only one of them and the other subject must be some other thing. Okay, so this is in general about anthropology. Okay, so there is one more unique aspect about anthropology. Just tell me, like you go to a university. In that university, some botany, zoology, physics, chemistry, these departments will be in which stream, science or humanities? Science. History, political science, economy, they will be in which stream? Humanities. Okay, but anthropology, is it a science or a humanity? It is both. It is both. So that's why a famous, this is my favorite quotation, you will hear me saying this repeated times. So he said anthropology is both a science and a humanity. Why it is a science and a humanity? I said like we have a biological body, okay. So like when we study about the biological aspects, like it is like science. And we study about the human society like caste system, religion, constitution, constitutional safeguards for SC, ST, BC. When we study all those things, that is like humanity. So I think anthropology is the only subject which is both a science and also a humanity. And also he said, when it is a science, it is a humanistic science, because we study about human beings in this. And when it is a humanity, it is a scientific humanity, because it is not based on assumptions. So we have facts, like this is what, so it is scientific, it is not based on some assumptions, we imagine like that. It's not like that. There is experimental, it is an empirical subject. Everything we can, like in anthropology, if I propose something, I can empirically prove you that. Okay, so that kind of a subject. So it is both a science and a humanity, and when it is a humanity, it is the humanistic. When it is a science, it's a humanistic science, and when it is a humanity, it is a scientific humanity. So in general, that is about the optional. Okay, and then so coming back to this, I said something to to explain about the subject, but that is not what you people need. What you people need is more marks, okay? Because like we are not here to love a subject, okay? Let it be a great subject, but what we have to do? After all, we need marks. We want to clear the exam, okay? So is it a scoring optional? So that will be the first question that you all will have in your mind. Is it a scoring optional? Here what we can do is, this is average marks, okay, average marks of all the students and of a few years. So like that, average taken. So the average marks of anthropology is 264. I hope you can see this here. The average marks of anthropology is 264 when compared to other popular optionals. Like for geography it is 253, and for history it is 259, and for PSIR it is 253, and for public administration it is 260. So anthropology average marks are higher when compared to any other popular optionals. And when you see like the other subjects whose average mark is more than this, like say for example this 274, 277, 265, what are they? Animal husbandry, okay, I think some chemistry, but the point is how many students are taking that? It is an average calculated out of only hardly some 10-15 students. And you know, so the good thing is to compare among the popular optionals. So among the popular optionals, highest average score is coming from anthropology, okay? And why average score is more important for you? Like say for example, one of the ranker got 362 marks in anthropology, not these recent years, okay, like 362 marks. It is even more than mathematics. And why am I comparing it with mathematics? Because since school days we know that maths is most scoring, because like if we get the right answer, they have to give the marks. They cannot cut short the marks. So even when compared to mathematics, its scores are higher, but that is not something based on which you can decide your optional, because probably she got 362, but you may not get 362. So 362 is a fancy number that rarely happens, like even rare is not a correct word, exceptionally rare, okay. So we cannot depend on those exceptionally rare things. So if I have to speak about that feats, okay, I will call it as a feat. 362 is kind of a feat for me, okay. So like let us assume that feats are there, and second feat is top 10 ranks, okay. I think since around 1 decade, every year in the top 10 there are at least 1 or 2 students from anthropology optionals. So like anthropology is doing good in top 10 ranks, highest score, but okay, when we are an aspirant, when we are now preparing for the exam, we cannot take the decisions looking at these feats. So what is more important for us is the average marks. On an average, how the students are scoring. So in all the three, in that feats, that is the rarest things that happen, highest marks, top 10 ranks. I really hope you will make one more such, you will create one more such feat. So next year I will be speaking about any one of you there that see she got some 370 marks, something like that should happen. But when we take the decisions, that should not be the criteria. So our criteria is average marks, okay. So that is how scoring the optional is, okay. Then next, This is the average number of students selected. Okay, this is another important criteria before we take the subject, the average number of students selected per a fixed number. So in that aspect also anthropology did good in the recent past. Okay, so I think this is about the scores and the number of students who got selected and all that. Okay, selection ratio. Okay, that is in medical sciences when 98 students. In medical science, for example, when 98 students wrote the exam, 16 got selected. So the selection ratio is 16.3%. In anthropology, okay, fourth number, yeah, okay. So it is, okay, yeah. So 345 and 37 and it is 10.7. So definitely no doubt medical science is doing better. But how many students are taking medical science? So that is also there, like 16.3% is good, but among how many? 98. Okay, so that is a different story. So again, when we compare with popular optionals means PSIR, geography, sociology, public administration, anthropology. Okay, so these are kind of, usually the students are taking these optionals. Among them, again, it is doing good. Right, psychology is some 10.9. So when compared to the other popular optionals, anthropology is doing good. Okay, so this is about like one criteria, that is the number of selections. Okay, now let me explain about how my course, how this course proceeds. Okay, it is like both online and offline, and how this course proceeds. As I told you, okay, like I'll keep interact. Have you attended any of my classes earlier, SNT or anthropology? How many of you? Okay. So like as I told you, like it is lot of interaction. That is like I keep asking you the questions, and what I believe is like in general what all can happen in the class. Okay. Basic minimum thing what can happen is like you will understand some 50% of the content what the educator taught you. Okay, so that is minimum. In any class you go, minimum 50% you will understand, other 50% you will have to work on that. You will have to read and go to the class, okay, or else after the class you have to collect the notes and read. So before and after the class exercise will be there. Your role 50% and the educator's role 50%. This is a bare minimum that can happen. So at this level what I believe is educator's role is 100%. Then you may question, so doesn't mean that there is no role of the students at all? Yes, that is also 100%. Okay, so my point is usually like they say educator's role is some like 20%. Students' role is 80%. This is how they say, and this proportion may vary in different teachers' pattern. Okay, in some educators' pattern, like maybe educator will do 70%, students' role is 30%, something like that. But in my classroom, what I believe is my role is also 100%, your role is also 100%. So how my role is 100%? First thing I will teach. I usually like say in a very funny way, I say this in every batch. So for my class it is like hanging till death. So that means explaining till you understand. Okay, so there is no scope that you will not, even the last student in the classroom will understand 100% of the content. This is what I promise in the very first class. Okay, so that is one thing, 100% understanding. Then will it end there? No. Minimum 80% learning also happens in the classroom. I mean, like I will make you memorize the things. I will keep asking you the questions. You will have to respond. Okay, and you can just shout your answers. You can just assume yourself like some kids, LKG students and all. So you can just shout your answers. So in that process, like minimum 80% depending on the concentration that you keep. That is, if you absolutely follow the instructions, it can go up to some 90-100% also. Your learning also will be completed in the classroom itself. And we may also come up with some daily answer writing programs so that your answer writing practice also will be completed. And Coming to the course, understanding, learning, and then complete study material will be provided to you. Okay, and you can depend only on the, using only the study material, you can cross 300 marks. But of course, it depends on how you use the material. Okay, that is, earlier my students scored 300 plus following only the material. But it doesn't mean that every student who attended my class will score 300 plus. So it depends on how effectively you will learn it, how effectively you can write the answers. Those factors are definitely there. Okay. So complete study material, which includes the notes for every word in the syllabus, and which includes the notes for minimum 250 words content for every previous question over a span of 10 years. Okay, so in the notes 100% you will find these two things: notes for every word in the syllabus. Second thing is notes for every previous question in the last 10 years. So that notes will be provided to you. And also you will have a practice of the notes in the classroom itself. Understanding, learning, notes, answer writing. So it is an all-inclusive course. Okay, and that is how the course will proceed. And as a part of the course, I will discuss around 500 previous year questions as a part of the course, not a separate answer writing program, nothing additional. During this course, I will discuss some around 500 previous questions. So that is how the course proceeds, and the class duration is 2.5 hours, and the duration will be around 4 months. And I have just checked the schedule, it will be completed by around October 15th. Okay, so that will be the course duration and classes. 6-day week, 2.5 hours class. So that will be the course duration. Second, next important thing. So are you all following? Am I too fast or too slow? You can keep such suggestions, ma'am. You are boring, like you can speed up, like we already got it. Okay, or please slow down, we are not understanding. So such things you can always keep suggesting. And by the way, I speak English. It is not a Hindi medium or English medium course. I speak English, but I speak very, very basic English. Even pure Hindi medium student can easily understand it. In between, I can speak some broken Hindi only to entertain you, but that will not be any functional usage. Okay, so I can only to entertain you. Okay, so that is how the course proceeds. Okay, and then the next important thing that you should know is what makes a good optional. Okay, so that optional should have some overlap with the GS papers. If it is having some overlap, like say for example, why medical science is not very why it is not among some geography, PSI or sociology, anthropology, why so many students are not taking it, or 90% of the UPSC aspirants are engineering graduates, do you agree? Then why some mechanical engineering, electrical engineering is not like PABAD, PSIR? So why don't we have this in Old Rajendra Nagar market or somewhere? So why it is not very popular? One reason is that they are not matching with the GS preparation. For example, if you take electrical engineering optional, it has nothing to do with polity, economy, geography, daily newspaper reading. Your daily newspaper reading that you will do for UPSC preparation will not help you in electrical engineering, mechanical engineering or medicine, botany, zoology, chemistry. Okay, so that is the reason why they are not popular, though the students have degrees in that. Okay, so here like, do you need some particular educational background to take anthropology optional? This is also one important question. Is it like more suitable for some biology students? No, let me tell you, all the students who got top 10 ranks with anthropology, interestingly, they all are engineering graduates. The students who got top 10 ranks from anthropology optional. Not only that, the 362 marks I quoted, I think the student name, like right now not a student of course, Lakshmi Singh, like she got 362 marks, she is also an engineering graduate. Okay, so like some Akshat Jain or some many students like Sri Harsha. So many rankers, they all are from the engineering students only, and that is not surprising because most of the graduates in India are BTech graduates, like proportionately. So that is the reason. That's not surprising that. Okay, so that is how You don't need any educational background to take anthropology. Same way, you don't need any particular educational background to take PSIR, PubAd, geography as well. Okay, none of these are our degree subjects, isn't it? You did not do your degree in geography, sociology, PubAd, political science, none of them are in your degree. Okay, so like any subject you can take, and the same way anthropology as well. No need of any educational background. And should you come prepared to my course, like particularly if you are coming into my course, should you come prepared? Like that is, do you have to read something before you come to the class? Absolutely no, just like come like a white paper. Okay, so if you just do not read anything before the course, in fact it is more convenient for me, because it is difficult to turn a red color wall into green color wall, but white color wall I can easily make it into red color. So for me it is more convenient if you do not read anything before the course. During the course, be active. Okay, so maximum focus you keep along with the course, because along with the course you will have a lot of enthusiasm, and also little bit of answer writing practice along with the course will help you. Because after the course, in the test series, there is one popular joke on test series that students join the test series only to test whether the institutes or educators are conducting it sincerely or not. So they are evaluating the papers properly or not, but they do not write. So if 100 students enroll, finally only one student will complete all the tests. So like during the course, the students will have a lot of enthusiasm. You have to encash that fresh mind. Today you studied something in the class. Immediately today itself you will have to write at least one answer, what you studied. So that will give you a level of confidence and all that. Okay. Then, so that is a better idea. So now coming to this point, I said a good optional should have some overlap with the GS papers. So what overlap the anthropology optional is having with GS papers? Let us see that. Like in general essay, I'll give you one example. I think 2020 or 2021, there was one essay, culture is what we are and civilization is what we have. That is purely an anthropology statement, because culture, civilization are two chapters in anthropology. What is culture, what is civilization? I'll add one more point to it. Religion is what we think. Culture is what we are. I mean our dressing, our language, our behavior, all these things. And civilization is what we have. Okay, so religion is what we believe, like we believe in supernatural, some god, which god, the origin of the god, what we believe about the story of human origin. Okay, so all these things are in our mind, that is in our thought process, and religion is in our behavior. Civilization is, this building is a civilization. Okay, the infrastructure, the clothes, the tangible things, okay, the objects, part is civilized. So this is all we study in anthropology. Same way in anthropology we have religious issues, religious minorities, linguistic minorities, SC, ST, OBCs, gender issues. Okay, so all these things, some transgender, live-in relations. So usually at least 1 or 2 essays will come from the social subjects. Is it clear? Okay. Some of the essays can be philosophical, some of the essays can be technical. Minimum 1 or 2 essays are coming from the social subjects. They will match with anthropology. And if you pick up an essay which is matching with your anthropology syllabus, it is just like 1+1 offer. I mean, you have prepared for optional, essay came for free. It is almost like that much importance. Okay. Next one is in the GS paper 1 we have Indian society. Okay, just compare the syllabus of anthropology optional and Indian society. It is hugely overlapping. In that also we study about the Indian society, unity in diversity, like some vulnerable sections. Okay, and then in the GS paper 2 we have social justice. In that again we have vulnerable sections, the poverty alleviation, education. So all these subjects, and then again in GS paper 3 we have science and technology. I said we have 24% of little biology in anthropology, that will match with biotechnology or some other portions of science and technology. Then again ethics integrity. Okay, in ethics integrity also it is a little bit of philosophical, social aspects of ethics integrity will overlap with anthropology. And then again ancient history. Why ancient history? Like we have archaeology, like Paleolithic, Mesolithic, Neolithic, Indus Valley civilization. All these we have in anthropology, the stone tools and all. So the ancient history will overlap with anthropology. Polity. Why polity? How polity? Like we have SC, ST, OBC issues, constitutional safeguards, tribal issues. We have 24% of anthropology syllabus is tribal issues. And this year prelims also, like I think those, if at all any of you were there in my Indian society course earlier, this year on constitutional bodies, NCSC, NCBC, NCST, on that there was a question. So like that in prelims, mains, okay. So what we study in anthropology, like because we have tribal issues, okay, SC, ST, OBC, religious minorities, all vulnerable sections we have in anthropology. So that way polity and biotechnology, okay, parts of prelims also will be covered. This is the huge overlap. In general, we think that say geography optional will overlap, yes, okay, but that will overlap with one paper. So easily the students will know. So definitely it is overlapping here, but here it is not like that. It is dispersed. In every paper you have some element of anthropology in that. Okay, so this is how the subject anthropology overlaps with your other GS papers. Okay, and then now let me introduce you to the syllabus of anthropology. Meanwhile, do you have any queries? You want to say something, you want to ask something? Yes?
Ma'am, I am from commerce background, तो जो biology है वो उस level की आती है क्या कि commerce background वाला नहीं कर सकता?
Okay, let me answer. I usually, again, this is my common sentence I say in every batch. Okay, for me it is okay even if you left your biology in your LKG. Okay, you studied biology only till your LKG, enough for me. Okay, so commerce students also, like I said, BTech, because most of the students are BTech. Okay, it doesn't mean that the only BTech students will get in top 10. So from that what we have to infer is, okay, to get into top 10 or to score good marks in anthropology, biology background is not needed. So from the BTech point, what I want to convey is, it doesn't mean anthropology will have some mechanical engineering, ECE subjects, absolutely no, zero. The point I want to convey in that, you don't need biology background, or you don't need an absolutely, you don't need any kind of biology or any particular background is not needed. But I agree, for commerce students, I mean, it can be little bit difficult, but that will be difficult in general in any subject. There can be a little bit of school knowledge. If you are good in schooling, that will be enough. But anyway, I promised you that I will explain you till you understand. And by chance, maybe because of the commerce background, it may be 1 or 2% little more difficult for you. But no problem, I can spend you time after the class also. Okay, because like now, like I am coming out and I am addressing an offline class 3 years, after 3 years gap. Okay, so I am also kind of super excited to meet with the students and interact with the students. So after the class also I can spend time and clarify all your doubts, and in this 4 months itself let us look into your answer writings also. Okay, any other queries? Okay, let us proceed with the syllabus. Very briefly I will introduce you the syllabus, because anyway during the course you will study. So what is what? Okay, in unit 1 we have human evolution. So in this we study Lamarckism, Darwinism, how the humans evolved from the monkeys or apes. Biologically, how the humans evolved. Okay, and then the unit 2 we have marriage, family, kinship. You remember like this. For example, a couple get married. After marriage they will form what? They will form a family. With marriage they form a family. Beyond family what we have? Relatives, some uncle, aunt, grandmother, grandfather. Kinship. Kinship means relationships. Kin group means a group of relatives. Okay. Then beyond a kin group, beyond our relatives, okay, who else we have, okay, as common society. Like say for example Indian society, all Indians are common, Indian nationality is common there. Or a Hindu society, common religion we have. Or some Brahmin society, okay, caste is common there. or some feminist society, gender is common there. Okay, society is something where something is common, a caste common, nationality common, or ethnic group common, gender common. So beyond the kinship we have a society, and every society will have a lifestyle, culture. So a couple get married, they formed a family. Beyond the family they had relatives, and they are a part of the society, and that society is having a culture. You can remember like this. Okay. Then after that we have economic anthropology. Okay, that's what I am saying. It will overlap with economy, it will overlap with polity, it will overlap with everything. In economic anthropology, you tell me what is the most basic economic organization? Agriculture? No. Hunting and gathering? Okay. In hunting and gathering they used to hunt the animals, gather the fruits, vegetables, some tubers and all. Then suddenly a person got an idea, so why should I run behind the animals, why don't I grow them? That became herding, that is pastoralism. Okay. And they got an idea, why should I go in search of some fruits, why don't I grow them in my backyard? So that became some horticulture, agriculture. Okay. Then after that what happened, for example, I am cultivating paddy, you are cultivating some wheat, why don't I exchange? So trade and commerce started. So that became, that evolved till the age of cryptocurrency today. Okay. So in economic anthropology we study this journey. So do one thing, in entire anthropology syllabus, the theme is evolution. Okay. So repeat once, what is the theme of this syllabus? Evolution. So here we study biologically how we are evolved. Here we study economically how we are evolved, from the time of hunting and gathering to the modern banking system, cryptocurrency, till the modern day, how the economic organizations evolved. Okay. In this we study how the political organizations evolved. Okay. Like say for example, what is the most primitive, the earliest form of political organization, you know? And you have absolute freedom to say wrong. Okay, feel free, just speak. Band, okay. Yes, anybody else? Sabha and Samiti, okay. So band, a tribal chief, and you know clan, you know this word clan. So what is a clan? Okay, I will only tell you. Vansh pata hai, Vansh? Nagavansh. Okay. So clan is something like the Hindi word for clan is Vansh. Okay. So like that particular clan will have a head. For example, in that tribe, if there are 4 clans, okay, 4 heads will be there. And all the 4 are not answerable to each other. It means they are not on one on the top of the other. Ek ke upar ek nahi. So they all are equal, they are not answerable to each other. Okay, so they are autonomous kind of. Every clan is autonomous. That kind of political organization. From there a tribal chief. Okay, then a small story here, a tribal chief. Economy is hunting gathering. In hunting gathering what happens, there is no food security. So one day you can hunt a huge animal, bison, and you cannot eat it all. Can you imagine eating it all? No. And the next day you did not get a hunt at all. So you are hungry. So both are extremes, either no food or you have a huge animal, okay, so both are problematic. So what to do? So they used to give handover all the hunted animals to the tribal chief. Then the chief used to distribute the meat equally to everybody, so that like you don't have to eat the entire bison one day and you don't have to sleep hungry the next day. Okay. One day this chief became greedy. Okay, he became greedy and he thought, why don't I keep a bigger share of it? Okay, or why don't I keep the better, more tastier meat or better one with me? Okay, so then what happened? If he keeps it a better share, the other people will fight with him. So he wanted to give a better share to some 3-4 other people. Okay, so that they will support him. That became army. Did you understand? This chief became king. So that is how the kingdom started. Okay. And in the kingdoms, it is a centralized political organization, isn't it? Can I say that clan heads concept I said, can I call it as decentralized? क्योंकि एक centralized authority नहीं है. Can we use the word? For example, there is a tribe, there are 4 clans. Every clan will have a separate head and they are not answerable to each other. So whatever decisions this clan members should take, that head will teach. Whatever decisions, some punishments and all. For example, one clan head can be a very cruel person, he can give cruel punishments. Another clan head can be a very liberal person, he may say it's okay, no punishment. So this kind of political organization. Can we use the word uncentralized for it? Decentralized is not correct. Can we use the word uncentralized for it? Next. Then what word will you give for monarchy, kingdom's monarchy? What word you will give? Everybody? Because the total power is centralized with the king. What word you give for the modern democracy? Decentralized, with Panchayati Raj system, municipalities, state governments, central government, we can call it as decentralized. What is the difference between uncentralized and decentralized? In decentralized, there is a hierarchy. Topmost prime minister will be there, then chief ministers will be there, and other ministers will be there, then Panchayati Raj institutions are there. So there is a hierarchy. Again, all the lower level authorities are answerable to one superior person out there. So that is not uncentralized, that is decentralized. So there is a centralized authority, but the power is distributed. So that uncentralized to centralized to decentralized, this is how the political organizations evolved. Again, I told you the theme of the syllabus is evolution. So we study how the things evolved. Okay. Then coming to the next one, religion. Okay. Let us try a few words to just explain you how this class proceeds. Okay. What do you call if you do not believe in God? No belief in God. Everybody, loud and clear. Atheist. Okay. One God? Monotheist. Okay, like Islam, Christianity, Buddhism, all these are monotheistic religions because they have only one God. Hinduism? Polytheism, that is several gods. Okay, then I'll give you another word. Okay, like, okay, you try to guess a word, just guess it. Okay, I'm not asking from your knowledge. What can you call? If you worship some god in the animal form, like say for example in Hinduism we have Dashavataras, like Matsyavatara. You are not worshipping the fish, you would rather fry the fish and eat also. You are not worshipping the fish, you are worshipping whom? Lord Vishnu in the form of fish. So what can you call it as? No. And if I say no, don't get demotivated, just guess, freely guess, you can go wrong. No. Okay, I'll give you the word zoo. Zoo means what? Animal. Okay, but we are not worshipping animals, we are worshipping Vishnu. So we call this as zoomorphism, where morph means form, isn't it? Do you agree? Morph means form, zoo means animal. Agreeable? Okay, zoomorphism, fine. Then you guess this word. If you worship God in the animal form, it is zoomorphism. If you worship God in the human form, that is Lord Shiva, Vishnu, Brahma, all these are in the human attire only, right? Beautiful goddesses are there, handsome gods are there, isn't it? So they all are in the human forms only. So what do you call, what word you can give? Anthropomorphism, exactly. Okay, and usually this is how most of the words, I will not tell you, it's not like I will give you a word and you will by heart it. No, you will only tell me the word most of the times. So most of the terms I will do like that. Okay, let us try with some words from human evolution, just to understand how our class proceeds. Okay, I'll give you a word called Pittacus. Look at this word Pittacus and memorize the word first. Pittacus means ape. Pittacus means ape. Done, memorized? Okay. Then now tell me, what do you call a small ape? Just guess, you need not be correct. We are just playing with the words. What do you call a small ape? Somebody is correct, be confident. Micropithecus. Done, that's it. Okay. Then say for example, you got an ape fossil in Egypt. What do you call it? You can go wrong. Answer, shout. You're right, be confident, no problem. We are just playing with the words. Yes, everybody? Egyptopithecus, yes. Okay. And you know, in geography, you know Australia continent. Why Australia is called Australia? No, because Australo means south. You know this? The word Australo means south. It is the only continent in the southern hemisphere, so it is called Australia. In general, I am saying, this is not anthropology point, but in general I am saying. Okay, we got, now coming to an anthropology point, we got an ape in South Africa, not Australia. South Africa में एक ape fossil मिल गया, so क्या बोल सकते इसको? Australopithecus. Is it clear? A giant ape, what you can call? Huge giant ape. Gigantopithecus. Okay. So this is how we proceed. And are the terms difficult? Means difficult. But we have a technique to make it easy for you. Okay. And I am here to be with you till you understand them, till you memorize them. Okay. And actually that is what we want, because if it is easy for everybody. So the subject must be slightly difficult and we should be able to do. Then only we are in some edge. Okay. And I'll make you answer one more small question. I want a name for ape man. Ape man. Okay. What is the root word for ape? You just learned Pithecus. What is the root word for man? Anthropo. Is it clear? Anthropo or anthro. So club that and tell me a word for ape man. Man ape nahi, ape man. Order badal do. Huh? Pithecanthropus. Say the word out. Pithecanthropus. Again say it. Okay. So I want the name for ape man with erect, and that is a symbol for with. Okay, pardon me for that. So ape man with erect posture. Guess a word. Pithecanthropus erectus. Okay. I am still not completely. Pithecanthropus. So actually is the name lengthy means yes it is. Actually is the name little bit difficult means yes it is. But you can easily remember it. So this is how usually the classes proceed. Okay. And then religion we discussed, anthropological theories. Okay. Like say for example, we have a theory called as evolutionism. Use the word once. Evolutionism. Okay. And don't get confused, that is not this ape se human wala evolution nahi. So that is cultural evolution, how the culture evolved. So we have a debate about how the culture evolved. Okay. So one group of scientists, okay, say that Indian culture invented in India itself, Egyptian culture invented in Egypt itself, American culture invented in America itself. So this is one proposal. Another proposal is, okay, the entire human culture originated only in Egypt. From Egypt the culture got diffused to the other continents or other countries. So these are the two arguments. Are both the arguments clear? Then I'll give you two theory names. Check the syllabus, you will have those two theory names. Evolutionism, diffusionism. Okay. So like say for example, I'll tell you the concept, you use any one of these two words. Evolutionism or diffusionism. Okay. Indian culture invented in India itself. Evolutionism. Okay. The human culture originated only in Egypt and from Egypt it got diffused to the other. That's it. Over. So these are the two theories. So like this we have some around 10 theories in this, anthropological theories. Then after that we have research methods, and we all have social research like interviews, surveys, sampling methods, okay, or census, okay. The population census is also an anthropological study, okay, because that is human census, right? We are not counting the pet animals and all. Anything related to human being is anthropology, okay. So that is what is anthropology. And then you have genetics. These four are our biology portions. Genetics, okay, and that is very similar to the biotechnology portion. Human growth and development. In this we study the life cycle of the human being. That is from the zygote, okay, egg and sperm will fuse and form the zygote. From there till the death of the person, what happens? The growth and development. Then this is fertility. Fertility is about giving birth to the children, and then if the people give birth to the children, what is formed? Population. So fertility leading to the demography, population, and then this is applications of anthropology. Okay, we studied a lot about anthropology and what are its uses, okay. So applications is sports anthropology, for example, just respond, if a very thin and weak person, okay, just if I beat, he will fall down, he will participate in wrestling, okay. So is it suitable? What about the chances of success? Are they good? No, okay. Same way, like if a very fatty, obese person finding it difficult to walk also participates in athletics, chance of winning less. So is it a good idea to choose the sport depending on our body nature? Whatever suits to our body, that sport we have to participate. So if we are well built, strong, then short put like sports are good. So if we are having good respiratory capacity, then athletics, swimming will be good. So that is sports anthropology, okay. Like say for example, forensic anthropology we have, like in many CID episodes and all, you will find somebody who come with a powder and develop the fingerprints, and fingerprints are on human body only done anthropology. Agar human se related hai to anthropology. Is it clear? So that is what you can understand about what is the subject all about. So DNA fingerprinting, in GS also you might have studied, they do the DNA sequence. Whose DNA? Human DNA done anthropology. Is it clear? Blood groups, like say for example, there was a crime, a murder, okay, and the victims, the culprits, the accused person's blood group is some B blood group, okay, and in the crime scene they got B group blood stains. So we can say that he can be the accused, isn't it? Because of the blood group matching. So like that we do crime investigation based on blood groups, based on fingerprints, based on DNA. All this comes under forensic anthropology, okay. Same way, like say for example, you know, assisted reproductive techniques, IVF and all. So they also come under applications of anthropology. So such things are there in applications. This is all your paper 1. Coming to paper 2, okay, coming to paper 2. From unit 1 to 5, we call this as Indian anthropology. Note down if you want, because it is not there in the PPT. Indian anthropology. And after the class, this PDF will be given to you. You can simply download it, okay. So like Indian anthropology. In this what we do about Hinduism, about Vedas, caste system, Indian villages, village studies, Jajmani system. You know Jajmani system? Jajman originated from the root word Yajman, I mean Lord. You know, have you ever scolded somebody as Kamine? Don't worry, okay. Actually the equation is Jajman Kameen, okay. Like it is bad, okay. Why? Because you are that Kameen word is used as a scolding word. It means we are using this word in a derogatory manner. We are not using it in a. So what is this? Actually these words are there in the Jajmani system. Jajman means like the landlord, okay, Yajman, from that it. So Kameen means like say for example like a goods provider. For example, the landlord will give them the grains and they will weave the clothes for them. Or shoe mender, dhobi, Mali, that is gardener. Sonar, that is the person who makes jewelry. Lohar, the person who makes iron tools and all. So all they are called means that was the word, but today we are using the word as a scolding word. Means it is indicating the inequality in the society and we should not use such words. Okay, so that's a different story, but all these things are there in the Indian anthropology, Hinduism, Vedas, karma theory. Okay, you know ashramas, what is the student stage called? Brahmacharya ashram. Why student stage is called Brahmacharya ashram? What do you mean by the word Brahmacharya ashram?
Charya is a path and Brahma is
God, yeah. So Brahmacharya, it means the student should be completely wandering. Wandering means not like I wander on this stage. His mind should be always wandering around the God, Brahma. Is it clear? So you should not focus on anything else, that is luxuries or physical attractions, okay, no love and all these things. Only focus on God. Why God? Because at that time the education was Vedic education. It was not some engineering, medicine and all. So they used to study about God only. The subject is God, isn't it? Vedic education, it is all about God. So that is how the word Brahmacharya ashram. Then after that Grihastha ashram. Then after that Vanaprastha. Vanaprastha means wandering in the forest. Then Sannyasa ashram. So ashramas, you know Purusharthas? Purushartha means what all a man needs. But what about Striyarthas? Not mentioned. That is gender discrimination in our literature. We have only Purusharthas, no Striyarthas. Striyartha is only the husband. Okay, that's it. No more, nothing more needed to get the salvation. Okay, so that is how Purusharthas are dharma. Dharma means the path, righteous path. Artha, that is wealth. Okay, Kama, that is the sexual desire. And moksha, that is salvation. These are the 4 Purusharthas. All these we study from 1 to 5. So just say it out. Paper number 2, unit 1 to 5, we called that part of the anthropology as Indian anthropology. In that we have about Hinduism, caste system, origin of the caste system, dominant caste, higher caste, dependent caste, village studies, judgmony system, okay, Purusharthas, okay, and ashramas. So all these things we study about the Indian society particularly. Okay, so that is there. And in the paper 2, 6 to 9, units 6 to 9 is tribal India. So that is the reason why I said around 24% of your syllabus is tribal India. Okay, why so much weightage is given to tribal India? Because anthropology is about our roots. If you ask me to tell one good difference between anthropology and sociology, sociology begins where anthropology ends. That means like we study about the roots, origin. Like say for example, political. We study about the clan heads, tribal chief. They study about the present politics. Okay. We study about the origin of religion, like animism. Okay. So some kind of nature worship. We start from there. Our study ends at the modern religion, like our study ends with the present Hindu-Muslim issues and all. Okay, 1 second. So, but sociology study will begin there. So, in sociology also you will have religion chapter, but there you will study about the present religious issues. So, that is one difference where the anthropology ends, there the sociology starts. That's what makes sociology a more dynamic subject because it deals with the current affairs more. Okay, yes, please tell me. Yes, that is the reason why it is. Is anthropology a static subject? That is the question. You check the syllabus, it should be static. Like say for example, I just told you, anthropology ends where the sociology begins. That means we study about the most primitive economy, hunting gathering. But in sociology, they study about the present economics. In anthropology, we study about the first political organization. But in other subjects, in PSIR, they study about the present politics. Did you understand? Anthropology is a study about our roots, from where we have come. I told you the syllabus theme is evolution. So, okay, from the beginning till the present, our study ends at the present. So, it is not dynamic. But of course, current affairs will be there in every subject, but I can tell you clearly that when compared to any other optional, the relative importance of current affairs is lesser in anthropology. A few things will be there, like say for example in evolution, somebody may discover a new fossil. Okay, like say for example some like a new fossil may come. Okay, Denisovan news was there, like that, then you will have to know. Okay, or say for example live-in relations, weekend marriages, or surrogacy act came. Okay, or else like say for example Supreme Court recently gave a decision that in the case of mutual consent divorce, okay, that 6 months waiting period is not needed. So it means the marriage system is becoming weak. It's a current development you can incorporate. Okay, so current affairs will be there, but 100% it is lesser when compared to any other optional. Okay, except mathematics, I believe. Okay, so second after mathematics I can say. Yes, any other query? So this is the overview of the syllabus. Then after that, yes, this is very important. Okay, the relative weightage of different things, like we have physical anthropology. Okay, physical anthropology means I told you unit 1, that is evolution. Okay, can you recall the units? Let me test your observation skills. Unit 1 was evolution. Unit 3 was economic anthropology. Unit 5 was religion. 4 was political. Okay, theories was in which unit? Unit 6. 7 was language and culture. Yes, you are correct. The title was language and culture. Unit 8, recall. Just try to recall. Research methods. So observation skills, some of you should improve, some of you did it. Okay, so that's how like we have seen the syllabus. In that, if you observe unit 1, that is evolution, unit 9 is genetics if you remember, and unit 10 is, guess what else was left over? Marriage, economy, political theories over. What else was left over? Growth and development. Okay, so growth and development. Unit 11 was demography. So unit 11 is also. Unit 12 was everybody, applications of anthropology. Okay, and the point is, I will ask you so many questions. I will try to make you talk, but I will never point out to one student and ask. Okay, so you tell me the answer. No, I will not do, because by chance if that student do not know the answer, I don't want that person to feel shy. So I will always ask the questions to a group. Okay, and also I will not be judgmental. Okay, all the questions are only to encourage you to speak, because listening to somebody continuously is a big torture. It's not so easy to listen to somebody continuously for 1-2 hours. So in between you should also speak. That's what I believe. So 1, 9, 10, 11, 12, that is 5 out of total 21 chapters. How 21? 12 units you have in the paper 1 plus 9 units you have in the paper 2, isn't it? Unit 1 to 5 Indian anthropology and 6 to 9 tribal India. Okay, so total 21 units, 5 out of 21, that is how I arrived at this number 24% physical anthropology. Socio-cultural anthropology 33%. This is 2 to 8 of paper 1. That is marriage, 2 marriage, family, kinship, society, culture, 3 economic, 4 political, 5 religion, 6 theories, 7 language, 8 research methods. So these 8 chapters are socio-cultural, so therefore it is some 33%. Then coming to Indian anthropology, I said 1 to 5 of paper 2. Okay, so it comes out to be 19%, 4 out of 24, 4 out of 21, so 19%. Okay, then archaeology you have in 1.8 of paper 1. 1.8 means in the unit 1 paper 1 there are 8 chapters, the last chapter 1.8 of paper 1 and the entire unit 1 of paper 2. Okay, paper 2 entire unit 1, that is archaeology. Okay, archaeology means you have Paleolithic, Mesolithic, Neolithic, stone tools, fossils, like that. You know Sivapithecus? Who is he? Why the name Sivapithecus? Sivalik Hills, that's it. You said if the ape fossil is found in Egypt, you said Egyptopithecus. If it is found in South Africa, you said Australopithecus. So if it is found in Sivalik Hills, what should be the name? Sivapithecus. Okay, so if you find one more ape fossil in Sivalik Hills only, so what could be the name? Rama, because you have to differentiate between the two, and this fossil already took Sivapithecus name. So another mythological character, Rama's name is given, Rama's ape, that is Ramapithecus. So that is how the Ramapithecus came. And Narmada man, because we got the fossil in the Narmada river basin, so therefore it is called Narmada man. It is now called Narmada human because that Narmada man was a female, it turned out to be a female fossil. So now it is not called Narmada man, it is now called Narmada human. Okay, so all these things we have in that unit 1 of paper 2. So that is after all only one unit. So around 5% of the total syllabus is archaeology. Then tribal India, I said 6 to 9 of paper 2, so that also comes out to be 19%. So this is the relative weightage of different subjects in anthropology. Okay, and then if you want textbooks list, here it is, but okay, you don't need to read them, that is like your notes will be enough. So why do I say your notes will be enough? Am I super confident about it, overconfident about it, or am I boasting about the notes? No, because the notes did not fall from the sky. I did not create the content in the, you know, law of conservation, nothing is created as such. So the notes is a compilation of all these things. So it's not that either the notes are all these things. The notes is equal to all these things. Okay, so that is the reason why I say you can depend on the notes, but if you have time, like say for example you are too young, you are still in the degree first year, you have some 2-3 years time, then you can read them all, because reading is of course the best habit a human being can have. Is it clear? So depending on your time and stage and your book reading habit and your capacity, okay, like say for example you have only one year time, and if you spend with all these textbooks, who will read polity, who will read economy, who will read geography? It's gone. On the whole, exam gone. You became an expert in anthropology, but exam gone. So it should be a smart decision about what is your age, what is your stage of preparation, how much time you have, and how fastly you can read the books and keep them in your mind. So if you have all these resources, then yes, you can read them. Okay, reading is definitely a good habit, because like say for example, if I read all these and I will give the summary to you, that level of knowledge is different, and the person who summarized them all, that person's knowledge will be different. I hope you understood the thing. Okay, so if you have time you can do, if you do not have time, you just have 1 year and you'll have to complete the preparation in that, or you just have 6 months, then absolutely don't worry about all these things. Okay, you can purely focus on your notes. And one more thing I can tell you, an easy solution, you study only the notes. Your friends in the library, they have a huge pile of books, they have all these books, then they are studying and they are frightening you. See, we are studying these many books here, after all reading only one material, it is not, you are afraid. Logical, you will be, because you are in a very vulnerable situation, rank is so important for you. So what you do is, take all the books, keep the material, compare. Okay, do you have that point in this or not? It is there, then yes, no problem, leave those books. Whoever studies it, no problem. You have that content in the notes, then it is enough. You don't have it, then read them all. Okay, so the point is, don't blindly trust me when I say only the notes is enough. Compare the notes with other sources. So if the notes is having the information which is there in all the other sources, then go with the notes. So that will be an easy decision, so that you will not again get afraid looking at your friends in a library or in a study room and all that. Okay. So I think that's it. After that, the next slide is how to score good marks in anthropology. वो course खत्म होने के बाद में discuss करेंगे. So if you have any doubts or queries, you can ask. Yes, yes.
What sort of level of genetics is there in anthropology?
First thing, whatever is a sort, as I told you, okay, if you have LKG knowledge, that is enough, because I will start from ABCD of genetics. And what standard you have means up to degree standard, but it just doesn't matter to you. Okay, I will explain till you understand. And if you are a little bit hesitant about biology, trust me, that will be the most interesting part. At the end of the course, you will feel bad that like if we had a little bit more of biology only. So in fact, that is more easy, that is more interesting, because genetics, you know, the father of genetics, Mendel, he was a statistics student. Father of genetics is not a genetics student, because obviously he cannot become a genetics student because he created that subject. The reason for his success is he was a statistician, so no need of any background. And straightforward question to your answer to your question is degree standard. Okay, but I will start from ABCD of genetics. Yes.
How we will proceed in this upcoming classes? Like you will teach us the same way?
Same way.
In online classes?
Yes, yes, yes. Yes.
Would you be running a parallel course in the online?
Yes,
medium?
yes.
Like starting from 5th of June itself?
5th of June, today is an orientation course. So like because I just reached, and also like I hope a few more students may be interested. So the serious classes will begin on 8th, as you know. I think you already got the schedule. So today is an orientation class. You understood what is what. The syllabus will begin on June 8th. Meanwhile, I may conduct more orientation classes, but you need not attend them. For example, tomorrow if I conduct one more orientation class, that is just the same thing, so you need not attend it again. So your next class will be on June 8th. Okay? Timings, I think 2 to 4:30. 2 to 4:30 is the time they have given to me.
This is for the offline class.
Offline, yes. Same time. Yes, it will run parallelly. I mean, the same thing will be streamed online. Yes. Any other queries? Okay, then that's it. I'll be here for some time. You can also come out and interact with me personally. Thank you so much for your attention and interest. Thank you. All the best. Bye-bye.